Hey guys, what is up? It is Austin here, bringing you guys another video, and today I am finally doing my review for Resident Evil Requiem. Now, this isn't going to be a super in-depth, we're looking at every single detail of the game review, but I made a list of the things I like and the things that I disliked about the game. But from what you can tell, I think this game is a masterpiece for Resident Evil. I think this is another fantastic game from Capcom. I think since 2017, they have just been on this crazy run of dropping banger after banger after banger games. And I fell in love with the series around that time. Now, I played the older games growing up a little bit too, but what really cemented me as a Resident Evil diehard fan was when 7 released, and then I did the Resident Evil 2 remake, and then I started making content on all of them, and then I just fell in love with the games and the universe and the story and all of that good stuff. So I was extremely excited for Resident Evil Requiem. You guys know Leon has always been my favorite character. 4 was probably like my favorite game growing up. And then as an adult, I mean, RE4 Remake, I think, is sensational. And then even the other games like Resident Evil 2 are fantastic. Pretty much, I enjoy every Leon outing except for 6. And 6 is the only one I'm just kind of like, I'm not really a big fan of it, you know? But pretty much every other Resident Evil game aside from 5 and 6, I am a huge fan of in the mainline games. But it had been a while since we got a new Resident Evil game with traditional characters, right? We had Resident Evil 7, then Resident Evil 8, and yeah, we got Chris in 8, but really, like, I was waiting for a new main character. And what I mean by new main character is like a new main character and then returning old character, you know, because Resident Evil can usually do that. They did it, you know, Code Veronica, where they brought back Claire, but they gave us Steve, and then eventually we got Chris as well. So I was really interested to see what we'd get. And then we got the reveal with Grace, and I was very intrigued. And then all the leaks and rumors were saying Leon was going to be in the game. And then we got the reveal that Leon was in the game. So first things first, it was firing on all cylinders. The marketing I was really excited for. The trailers I thought looked great, but I didn't watch any gameplay or any of those trailers. Like, I watched one trailer probably, and I refused to watch the rest. I wanted to go in almost completely blind and experience this for the first time. And I gotta say, I loved it. I loved almost every second of this game. And I'll get to the only stuff I didn't like later. But first things first, let's talk about the new character, our brand new Resident Evil heroine. We got Grace Ashcroft. Now, I was eager because Capcom, again, I think in their, past like 10 years almost, we haven't really gotten a bad new character, in my opinion. Like, I've been a fan of pretty much all of them. So I was interested to see how it would turn out with Grace, and I'm just so happy to say that she's amazing. Like, she's another great, like, S-tier Resident Evil character. I think we've gotten a lot of those, but she is your average everyday character. She's almost like the Ethan Winters in this game, right? Where Ethan was supposed to be the average everyday stand-in, so you could kind of relate to him a lot more often. Grace is exactly that. Grace is terrified of so much, and honestly, deservedly so. There's zombies everywhere. There's blood everywhere. She's thrown into this nightmare. She gets, has to go to Raccoon City. Like, very understandably so, she is terrified. And her voice actor did an amazing job, like sensational job with conveying the fear from Grace and also her emotions. I think about the scenes with Emily later in the game. Like, she is amazing as Grace. And Grace's story is pretty solid. I won't get into all the spoilers. We'll get into some spoilers, but I don't want to give away her big twist of the game, but she is the crux of the end of the game. Like, Grace is the answer. She is the hope. Wink, wink. But she's great, man. I love Grace's sections, especially gameplay-wise. Grace's sections are the more slowed-down survival horror where you really have to pay attention to the environment, scavenge for supplies, pick and choose which fights you want to do, which fights you want to ignore to get to the next area. Like, Grace's area is very strategy, like, heavy, right? It's the classic Resident Evil gameplay style, which I really loved. I thought it was brought back in a beautiful way with this game. I think the two gameplay sections are juxtaposed perfectly, and they really complement each other. Because like I said, Grace, you have that classic Resident Evil style gameplay where you're scrounging around for keys, and you can do that in Leon's playthrough too, but Grace's is far more of, you get like a pistol and a knife, and you just gotta survive. And that's what I absolutely loved about her gameplay section. I thought Grace's sections were almost perfect. Like, they were fantastic. I love the layout of all of her locations, but we mentioned Leon, so we're gonna transition and talk about the boys gameplay section, because oh my, is it very different from Grace's. So moving on over to the guy, the GOAT, Leon. his sections are straight out of Resident Evil 4. He controls like Resident Evil 4. You have the combat evolution from Resident Evil 4. You have the parry system from Resident Evil 4. You have the, finisher, like, surprise assassinations from Resident Evil 4. Like, it is pure Resident Evil 4 gameplay, and it works perfectly. His sections are so smooth. With Grace, you feel so limited, right? And it works for how her gameplay is designed. But for Leon, you feel like you can do anything. It's like when you get to play as Leon, you almost breathe a sigh of relief because you're like, I ain't scared of shit, You're playing as Leon, you can throw these explosive barrels, you can parry fucking cars with this hatchet, which the hatchet, really fun addition. Instead of having to worry about scrounging knives and upgrading knives, you can upgrade your hatchet, but instead of scrounging for hatchets, you can just repair it through the gameplay just by sharpening it, which I thought was an amazing addition. I like Leon's weaponry. He has a far more expanded loadout, and he has a whole assortment of moves you can do from melee attacks. You can roundhouse kick them like I did there. And what's fun about them is they actually react to the environment. So if you kick them down a flight of stairs, they will go tumbling down the flight of stairs, and it's really fun. But you have hatchet, finishers. Like, Leon's areas are great. But I think Leon's story shines even better because Leon is dealing with something that we've kind of seen a bit more of in the remakes, especially with RE4. If you remember in RE4, he was desperately trying to change things from how they went down in Raccoon City, whereas Raccoon City, he couldn't save anybody, right? Or almost anybody. And then in Resident Evil 4 Remake, he really wanted to save Ashley because he kept getting flashbacks to Resident Evil 2. In this game, he's confronting that trauma head on by literally returning to Raccoon City, and he's got to confront his trauma head on. And I think they handle that brilliantly. I think the voice acting from Nick Apostolides, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, he's the best Leon voice actor we've got. I think my personal favorite is probably Paul Mercer or, rest in peace, Paul Haddad, but Nick is just fantastic in all the games. He has a really great evolution of Leon's voice. And the, Resident Evil 2 remake, he's a lot more innocent-like and a lot more shocked by the things around him. And then Resident Evil 4 remake, he's the confident badass. But in this one, he is the aged, veteran, right? Where he's been down this road before, but he's also a lot more emotionally vulnerable in this game. And I think that's a side of Leon we don't get to see too often, He's constantly thirst trap man for all the bitches. And I get it. He's hot. And he's hot in this game too. But they really focus on his trauma. And he has his quips. He's still very funny. He's got a one-liner every now and then. He's got some really funny ones, in my opinion. Some really good ones in this game. But he also has moments of vulnerability, which I think really adds to his character. And it's just great. I love the environments. The environments are beautiful in this game. I love the weaponry. I love Raccoon City. The only thing I would say I wasn't a huge fan of was maybe the orphanage section, but I say maybe because you can speedrun the fuck out of that thing. Like, you can get it done in less than 4 minutes. It's really not that big of a deal. I think people have overblown how annoying that section is because it's really not that bad. And on your first playthrough, when you're playing through it blind, it is legitimately scary, so it does its job. So I don't even know if I'd put that in the negatives, but it's something I wanted to throw in there because when I did my second run, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. Now, I will be trying Insanity, so maybe the routes are switched up on Insanity because I know for Chief Irons in Resident Evil 2 Remake, if you played on hardcore mode, he had different routes, right? So maybe that'll happen in Insanity. Maybe it'll throw me for a loop. But, otherwise, I'm not the biggest fan of that section, but it's not bad. And then the villains. So here's the thing. The villains are actually pretty decent in terms of the story, right? Zeno, we don't know much about him, but I don't mind Zeno. And then Gideon, I think, is pretty interesting, relatively speaking. My biggest problem is there is no boss fight with Zeno. Now, I get it. He's broken. He's overpowered. It's going to be hard to fight him, but we've done that before. We fought Wesker as Chris in Resident Evil 5. This badass Leon can't fight, Zeno, especially when, spoiler alert, he's cured. I think that we could have had a dope boss fight. That's my only big negative is there's no boss fight with Zeno, and the villains feel a little bit underdeveloped. But all that being said, they're still iconic. I think Zeno's cool for this game. I'm sure we'll get more in a DLC to explain some of his backstory, I hope, which this game is getting DLC, which I'm really excited for. But anyways, that's about all I have for today's video. Those are my quick, summarized thoughts / review on Resident Evil Requiem. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought about Resident Evil Requiem down in the comment section below. Have you played the game? Are you doing a second playthrough? Hopefully you guys all enjoyed this video. Be sure to stick around for more, especially for the Insanity run. But I will see you guys next time. This is Austin, and I'm out. Peace, guys.